This is football. I'm Kevin Clark. I'm going to get angry about something very quickly, and then we're going to get to Field Yates and then TJ Watt. Two of the greats, two of the best people operating at a high level this year. And they make the same amount of money, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to fact check that. I asked both of these gentlemen the same question, and Field had a more expansive answer than TJ. Should defensive players be in the mix for the MVP? TJ was an awesome interview, and you're going to really enjoy it. But he did not really want to expand on whether or not he himself should be in the MVP mix. But I'm looking at the MVP futures, and I got to be honest with you, I'm just getting a little frustrated because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at some point, a doom loop, if you will. Mahomes, Tua, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Purdy, plus 1,100. Brock Purdy is fifth in NFL most valuable player odds. Behind that, McCaffrey, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill should be in the conversation. But I just named a bunch of guys who are not playing particularly well, and Tyreek Hill is behind them. You have to change the conversation. The conversation changes now. And I asked TJ about this, but JJ Watt said the most valuable player should always be a quarterback because they touch the ball on every play. The way the passing boom works, like past 12 years, they're always going to be the most efficient player. A good quarterback will always be the most efficient player. But we have to change the conversation. By the way, TJ Watt, plus 10,000 to win the MVP. Tied, according to these odds I'm looking at, with Kirk Cousins. Just ahead of Matthew Stafford. By the way, he intercepted Matthew Stafford on Sunday. We talked about that a bit in the interview. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now. Myles Garrett and TJ Watt should be in the mix. And I'm not saying they should win it. I'm just saying they should be in it a hell of a lot more than some of these quarterbacks. Tyreek Hill, exactly the same. I don't know what was different when Christian McCaffrey got 2 weeks of buzz for the MVP, and yet Tyreek Hill hasn't gotten serious consideration, even when they scored 70 points without Jalen Waddle. Or that, I mean, like, the Browns might make the playoffs basically on the strength of Myles Garrett. And everybody, they just played. There was the game a couple weeks ago where Dalvin Tomlinson's running up and eating and thriving, but it all flows through Myles Garrett. And I would say the same thing right now about the Steelers as well with TJ Watt. So let's just change the conversation. So I asked both these guys about it. Both had interesting answers in different directions, but that's it. MVP, let's open it up to non-quarterbacks, especially in a year like this where quarterbacks are playing, relatively speaking, worse than they have in many years. Tickets to the game, merch, meals at iconic restaurants, stays at Caesar's Palace. All this can be yours when you bet with Caesar Sportsbook. Win or lose, every bet earns reward credits, which you can redeem across the empire. Now, if you haven't started yet, use the code OMAHAFULL and then place your first bet up to $1,250. If you win, great, you keep those winnings. But if you lose, you get your stake back as a bonus bet. All right, TJ Watt is here, one of the best players in football. Ryan Clark the other day said he's in the discussion for best player in the world and will be one of the best Steelers of all time. He's here with Snickers. What's going on, TJ Watt?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me.
So a lot to talk about. You're playing as well as any player in football right now. And I want to start here. I know this is like a tough question to ask, especially since you would be in the mix, but your brother said something a couple of weeks ago I found interesting. He said basically that a quarterback should always win MVP and that a guy who touches the ball is always going to be the most valuable player in football. And in a year, TJ, where defenses have caught up to offenses, maybe more than they have in the past. Scoring is down, touchdowns are down, yards per catch are way down. Unders are hitting at 60%. Red zone efficiency is at basically decades-long lows. Do you think it's time that we open up the MVP award to the defensive side of the ball?
I don't know. That's not for me to answer. And that's all those crazy quick numbers and stats you just threw at me are wild. And it's just one of those things that I don't have enough time to really comprehend or understand all those statistics and have a opinion on it all. Like I have so much going on in the building, and all those awards are come after the season, and that's kind of when I worry about all of that.
I want to get into your dominance this year. My words, not yours. But you're playing as well as anybody. I talked about the praise from Ryan Clark, Ben Roethlisberger. I just saw Clippers basically like you just can't put one guy on him right now. It's unbelievable. And your move, it's basically a rip move. You can beat anybody with it. Is as good a move as anybody has in football, and you don't need to do 100 different things. And I know your ability to go low is a marvel, frankly. And I've seen you talk about that. I've seen you um, uh, sort of display that before with in sort of tape studies and stuff like that. But I'm curious, how did you learn that move, TJ, and why did you get so good at it?
Yeah, it's honestly a variation of JJ's kind of two hand bull swipe,
Yeah,
and there's so many guys that I mean, there's only so many ways to rush the quarterback. I mean, you got the bull rush, you have a cross chop, you have a swim move, spin, stuff like that. And I just realized that I wasn't going to be able to do a true bull swipe like Jay did because I'm not obviously that big and strong. So I have to find a way that to cater the move to myself. So just trying to work all off season and all my career on like ankle, knee, and hip mobility so I can have that low bend to be able to hopefully get underneath of the bigger tackles and turn the corner quicker. And it's been a good move for me and hopefully continues to be.
how does that happen? So like, how do you're obviously are you working on it with JJ when you're growing up with your brothers in the backyard in a high school game? Like, how does it a move like that get developed?
No, I mean, I didn't start playing defense really until college, so
Right.
it's just a lot of that stuff was all natural in the beginning, and then once I was able to actually train specifically for it, it's more boring stuff like a lot of banded mobility work, and it's not actual football specific work until it comes around to football season. Then you're just working on ducking underneath dummies and working one on one with a coach. But Jada and I have only worked on pass rush one on one probably two or three times. It's not like we were sitting at home every off
Right.
season, just me and him in the backyard.
What are the competitive sports between the Watt brothers?
Golf is the biggest one. I think it's just because it's easiest on the body, and none of us are really good, so we can just talk a lot of crap to each other. And at the end of the day, we're not very good.
You just described golf, brother. Everybody's bad,
Yeah,
and they all just
exactly,
talk trash about it all the time.
exactly.
It's something else. So I mentioned. So first of all, Mike Birch put this stat out over the weekend that only four players have gotten 85 sacks, 25 forced fumbles, 7 receptions in their career. Peppers, Suggs, Jason Taylor, and you. And you're only 29 years old. You're the first person to do it in 100 games. Ryan Clark said you're on track to be one of the best Steelers ever, if not the best. When you think about the legacy of Pittsburgh, and it was funny because I was at camp and Aaron Smith was there and they talked about how he's the professional father of Cam Hayward and all those guys have to pass it on.
Yeah.
When you get into Pittsburgh, there's an expectation that you have to be great and you're in there and you have to be part of a legacy and you really can't let anybody down. I'm curious when you get there how you learn that. And obviously there's expectations and you watch on TV and you see the pass rushers who come or you see the defensive linemen, you see the safeties or whoever, but like when you get there, when do you learn, okay, this place is different?
I mean, right when you walk through the doors and you see 6 Lombardi trophies, I mean, that's kind of the first indication. And then I just remember going to practice, and I mean, you have guys like Cam Hayward, Ryan Shazier, James Harrison, Mike Mitchell, William Gay. I mean, just on the defensive side of the ball alone, all those guys cared so much about each and every single day. It wasn't even about Sunday; it was about the days leading up in preparation to how were we going to be successful come Sunday, and you realize that guys truly love the process, and that's what creates successful people. And I just fell right in line. I fell in love with the process as well, and we look out for each other. We don't do all the hazing. We don't keep secrets from our young guys. Everybody's comfortable in their role. If I'm not trying to help out a young Nick Herbig or a young Keanu Benton when he comes in the building, or Joey Porter, I'm only hindering my team. So I'm trying to give them as much information as possible so that they can get on board as quick as possible and help us win football games.
Can you pinpoint? You mentioned obviously having to pay it forward with the younger guys, but the older guys, can you mention a time or a player where you were something was shown to you, unlocked for you by an older player, whether that's a move, whether that's a technique, or just a way you should prepare?
Yeah, I mean, James Harrison was huge for me my rookie year, and just a guy who was really dominant in the six technique and in the run game, and something as a smaller, skinnier guy coming into the league. I definitely wasn't too keen to getting in a six technique or in the run game as much as I was eager to get into the pass game. So
Mm.
I remember him pulling me aside and just teaching me a couple of things about footwork and what to have my eyes on, and lessons like that stick with you forever, especially when they're coming from a legendary player like James. And I always appreciated his willingness to help me develop.
Well, what was the key he taught you that you can now see on Sundays with TJ Watt?
I still don't play a lot of six technique, but when I do, I always think about just keeping my weight on my instep so I can step evenly both ways. Keeping my eyes on his jerseys and all that stuff.
Interesting. All right, take me through the interception on Sunday. Obviously, pass rushers getting interceptions is another Pittsburgh trademark. We've been seeing it now for about 40 years. But just take me through that play and how you were used on it and what led to it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't drop in coverage a whole lot, but when I do, I want to make the most of it, obviously, and was just able to drop in coverage and saw that Stafford was looking away from me, so tried to start working towards him a little bit. And obviously, as it gets later in the down, feeling like he's going to continue to look back, and I saw the receiver pivot back out towards me, so I just decided to break on it. And if he threw it, he threw it. If he didn't, he didn't. And luckily for me, he was able to throw it, and was able to pick it off in stride and make a weak attempt at trying to get in the end zone.
It was pretty good. Do you like being used in a bunch of different ways? I mean, you mentioned you don't drop back in coverage that much, but there, Pittsburgh has an interesting defense in that way. Do you like being used in a lot of different ways, or do you like to be in situations where you just get to pin your ear back and go at the quarterback?
I mean, as a pass rusher, I would love to pin my ears back and get after the quarterback, but I also understand the schematics of not being a target that is easy to hit, and we need to continue to evolve and do things differently so people can't just pinpoint me rushing every single time. So I'm all for it for the greater cause of the team, and I mean, dropping in coverage isn't that bad, especially when you're able to make plays in the football.
Yeah, I was gonna say you still get some stats there when you drop back there. I'm interested. I saw a clip of you from a couple years ago where you're talking about how your rip move when you come up, it's almost like the offensive lineman is put in a automatic holding position because they've got the hand right there. And you've mentioned that you're not the biggest guy in the world. That's part of the reason you have the move that you do. I'm curious how you've learned to use your body to your advantage because of that, because of the flexibility, because maybe tackles just aren't used to your body type, and how you've sort of molded your body into being the player you are right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about just trying to get into the body of these bigger guys and use them as like almost like a pivot point to be able to
Right.
turn the corner quicker. You don't necessarily just want to run around them and create more space. You more so want to go through them and you get on their edges. And sometimes it does appear to be holding, and it depends on the reffing situation. And sometimes if you initiate the rip, they're not going to call the hold and a whole bunch of other things. But it's all about finding ways to win, and I don't care how it's done. I just want to get it done. So I'm always open to learning new moves. That's why it's nice to have a deep outside linebacker room like we have in Herbig, Highsmith, and Golden. And I'm just continuing to learn and hopefully add more moves to my repertoire as I get older.
The other guy who I think is top of mind for most people when they talk about defensive players right now who should be in the MVP discussion. You're one of them. The other is Myles Garrett, frankly. And I know that saying really nice things about the Cleveland Browns is not something people in Pittsburgh love to do, but obviously he's playing at a really special level. And I think that you two are the best defensive players in football right now. And I'm curious if you could just give me a scouting report on what you've seen from Myles this year and what makes him great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't have time to watch a lot of
Sure.
NFL football games, so I can only speak for when he plays us and when Coach Tomlin talks about the defense in our team meetings. But obviously, I've been going against him for a bunch of years, or our team has, and a guy that just seems to be able to do it all. I mean, he has incredible quickness. He has a great long arm and power move, and then also he has a great spin that he's developed lately too. So a guy that just seems to be playing the game better each and every year, and it seems like he's creating a great environment over there for successful defense, and their team is playing really well. So hats off to him and hats off to that defense.
last thing before we do, two things we always do here. The first thing is I want you to self-scout a little bit. And I know you're playing at such a high level, but everybody, as you said, you're always looking to learn more things. If you need to get better at one thing, if you're coaching yourself right now, what is it? What is the one area that you need to self-scout and get better at right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm trying to move around a little bit more. Maybe you'll see me on the right side a little bit more. Maybe you'll see me less on the left. It's something to keep an eye on.
Oh wow, yeah, no, I saw Mike Tomlin say the other day that teams are trying to take you out on one side, and so you can maybe move around a little bit more as a way to not get taken out of the game. On the other hand, like if they want to sell the farm to take you out of the game, that's going to open up opportunities for other folks. Even if that might frustrate you a little bit. So we think we might see on kind of around the field going forward.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I'm trying to do whatever I can to be able to help the team be victorious. And if that means moving around a little bit more, opening things up, then I'm going to try and do it.
Love that. All right, before we get to what you're doing with Snickers, we do a thing called Badasses on this show, which is you tell us about the most badass guy you've either played with or played against. And it doesn't matter who it is. I assume it's going to be a Steeler, but it could be also at any level of football you've ever been at. It's just you shouting out. I mean, Jared Allen was just telling about Willie Roaf dumping him on his neck in practice and throwing him in practice to show him he wasn't anything. Who in your football history is the biggest badass you've ever come across?
Oh, James Harrison. I mean, easy. I mean, I remember we were playing in Kansas City my rookie year. He didn't play a whole lot of reps, but it was late in the game, and we needed to close out the game. And he was like, "Coach, let me get a rep. Let me get a rep." They put him in for run rush. Everybody's like, "Watch this. He's going to get a sack." And literally, I think it was one or two plays. He had a sack fumble. It was just absolutely incredible. Badass.
Perfect. Tell us what we're doing with Snickers, TJ.
Yeah, so I'm partnering with Snickers, and Snickers has come up with the Snickers Luck Shop, which every Sunday, I mean, I'm sure you know a couple people, you might even be one yourself, where you have that lucky item that you always have to have on you, whether it's socks or a jersey you haven't washed in forever to bring your team good luck on Sunday. And there's a lot of people out there that make the Snickers rookie mistake of not having that luck charm with them, or that good luck charm doesn't work anymore. So you can go to the snickersluckshop.com and for $7.77, a very inexpensive price, and you can buy a lucky item from your team, whether it's a piece of turf from Acrisure Stadium or it's a shirt or a hat to be able to bring your team good luck and hopefully make your team victorious on Sunday. So I think it's a cool initiative, a cool event that Snickers is doing with the NFL.
Love it. TJ Watt, Snickers, thank you so much for coming. This is football, man.
Thank you. Have a good day.